Greetings, I'm Charles. I'm 55 years old. I'm 6'1" when I'm fully assembled, with about 230 pounds. Today I'm coming to with a bare stump, and that's because I'm going to talk about having an injury to the area behind my knee, and that'd be on the back of my leg, not under the kneecap, but behind my knee. That is what it was I got ingrown hair, something I've gotten all my life. It doesn't have anything to do with being an amputee, but I'm sure having prosthetic liners and things didn't help this situation. So I ended up getting an ingrown hair, which had a growth along with it, and that was right there on the palatal fossa, which is technically the area behind, on the back side of your leg behind your knee, not under the kneecap, but the skin and stuff area. And the posterior cruciate ligament is that little ridge that you can feel, that can be felt behind your leg if you just rub your hand underneath there. And I had an ingrown hair and a bump that accompanies ingrown hairs right there on that ligament. And me being a fellow that has a prosthetic leg, well, two prosthetic legs, one on each side, but with the liner that came up over top of that, that became just really super uncomfortable. It wasn't the bleeding, it wasn't being tore up or anything like that, but it was just like there was well, you can probably imagine if there was a hair or a little pebble or something inside, it just kept rubbing and rubbing and rubbing, and it was just annoying. Now, the type of liners I have are, these things are basically, they're called gel liners, and there's nothing between this surface, this is turned inside out right now, so there's nothing between this surface and my skin, so it basically stays on. It's a combination of kind of a self-imposed vacuum and friction. And I had whole kinds of suggestions about using different types of bandages type adhesives and things like that, and they just did not seem to work well for me. But I was given an idea, something that would work, and it worked. It was very limiting, but it worked very well for my situation. If you're familiar with these types of liners, you also understand that there's these spacer socks that go with it that you'll wear over top of the liner. As the day goes on, typically the stump or the residual limb will kind of shrink up, and you use these spacer socks to fill in the gap between your leg and the liner. So what I did was I just took one of the smallest spacer socks, a #1, and took this and pulled this up over my stump. And then I would roll the liner up over top of that. Now this worked really well in that it cut down virtually all of the friction and nearly all of the irritation of having that bump behind my knee. The real problem with this was that it was only kind of functional. I was basically a very low activity day after this because, as I said, this basically works as a combination of friction and kind of a built-in suction vacuum as I roll this thing up. So having all but basically the top 3 or 4 inches, you can see I've got this sock right here, comes up to about here on my leg. So I have a distance of about 3.5, maybe 4 inches worth of this gel liner that was holding my leg, 3 or 4 inches compared to the 15 inches that was supposed to be used to hold up my leg. And it does definitely, had to be a low activity days for sure, because I did have a couple of times where as my leg got sweaty, this thing just slid off, which had not happened before with this particular liner. I never got to the point where it got sweaty enough for it to just slide off. But it did in this case. But like I said, it did a very, very good job of cutting down the friction and irritation on that area behind my knee. Now there is a product out there that everybody will suggest and uses glideware stuff, and I understand that it does work pretty well for most everything, but I looked at a ton of videos. I looked at all of the stuff from the company that makes the glideware, and they showed however many, 20 different applications for this, but not one that I found was for the area behind, on the back of the leg behind the knee there. I thought, well, I just cannot see how that would not bunch up under my liner and cause me at least as much grief as I was already having. So I passed on that. Now, to prepare for things the next time around, I did try some other adhesive bandage type situations. Now, this was after it healed up, so I don't know that this will work at this point, but I tried a whole bunch of these things. Some of them couldn't handle the sweat underneath the liner. Some of them wouldn't stick to my skin, but stuck to my hair. I don't know if you can tell on the videos, but I'm a fairly hairy guy, and of course that is annoying to have any kind of a bandages or tape sticking to your hair and not sticking to your skin, because that's just painful to no effect. And some of them would come off or just bunch up, which is not good either. But I did come across this one product that is told to look for this stuff called Tegaderm, which is Tegaderm. Now, I could not find that on when I went to specific drugstore websites, but part of the reason is this stuff right here. Part of the reason is probably because that's kind of a brand name and a brand name and a brand name. It's a 3M product by Nexcare, Nexcare, and then it has Tegaderm underneath that. Now, I have not had a situation where I've had a wound behind my knee or had another ingrown hair since this previous one, but I did test a bunch of these things out, and I did test this for me, this Nexcare, and it is something that stayed put on me, and it came off without tearing the skin off like some of the other ones did. Another problem, some of them won't stick at all, and some of them won't come off when it's time to come off, without causing more damage. But this, at least for my purposes, was relatively painless. I mean, there was, a little bit, but it wasn't too bad peeling it off, and it stayed in place all day without any problem with me, all of my movements and, walking around at that level at that time and things of that nature. So if that may be something you want to give a try, I did try a bunch of them, like I said, and it can get expensive once you get to about, after you got past about 2 or 3 of these boxes of patches, just trying to check on them. In any case, hopefully that's some information that's helpful for you for taking care of, a pain, an abrasion, maybe a pimple, or like in my case, an ingrown hair on the back of the knee, or back of the leg behind your knee area, because I know that can be very debilitating. It can pretty much, a little thing can stop your progress and definitely limit your mobility. You folks have a good day and good luck.